Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
But it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
And Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello and welcome, everybody. It's me, Cynthia Sue Larson, and Christopher Anatra.
Hey, everybody.
And Tim Robinson, Unbiased.
How's it going?
And I'd like to welcome you to this month's edition of Open Tables. Today we'll be talking about Mandela effect theories, and you can see it's an exciting show. This is one of our favorite topics, and we've been looking forward to covering it for some time, suggested by our own Jerry Dark Wolf Hicks, who hopefully will be joining us. And you can see this illustration here from one of our favorite shows, Back to the Future. But before we get started, let's go to the next slide, please, Heather. I'd like to read the disclaimer and remind everyone the content you're about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. So welcome, everybody, and let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so we've got a really great show for you today. I think you'll be excited because it's all about, like I said, Mandela effect theories. We're going to get into that. But before we do, we love to start with the sponsors. We have some excellent ones for you today. We'll give you the updates from myself, Jerry, Shane, and Chris, and then we'll dive right into those Mandela effect theories and wrap it up with your questions and answers. So be sure, if you're joining us live, put those questions in the chat room, and be sure if you want to give us a super chat or a sticker, we love that, and we'll say woohoo and definitely celebrate each one of those. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started and start with our first sponsor today. Let's take a look at next slide, please. I think Chris wants to take this one. This is super exciting.
Oh, yeah, I like this one. The golden bumblebee, otherwise known as the teddy bear bee. All right, another one of these Mandanimals that's golden in color, indicating possibly the golden timeline. And they are gold in color. They're golden color. They're fluffy with green eyes. Sorry, I lost my screen for a second. They're technically considered the male version of what's called the valley carpenter bee. And I can't pronounce the actual name for it. It's called the teddy bear bee. They're large. They're the size of a queen bee. They do not sting, as most bumblebees don't sting. They don't sting, actually. They can be found in California. So they're in your hood, Cynthia. Arizona, New Mexico, and Mexico itself. And then what's really interesting too is I wanted to add to this slide the concept if bumblebees fly or if they levitate. So we have a video that while we're talking about this, we can play to show what it's the slow motion of a bumblebee in flight. So here's the concept. And do bumblebees actually fly or do they levitate? Now, when we talk about this, we can come up with scientific reasons, for and against, but use your intuition. So when we talk about this, kind of what feels right might be the actual answer. So do they actually fly? Are their wings strong enough to actually lift them and propel them at high speeds? Or is it possible that the movement of their wings, and their wings just don't flap up and down, they actually go side to side as well, and the geometric patterns that are on their wings? Because when you look at the wing of a bumblebee and you keep zooming into it, there's even more geometric patterns. So are they possibly causing some kind of a magnetic scalar field around them? Same concept as like a UFO, which can move at high speeds. Are they actually exhibiting some kind of anti-gravity feature? And there is another type of insect that also shouldn't be able to fly, that has wings like this, and that's the scarab beetle. A lot of people have heard about the scarab beetle with Egyptian hieroglyphs and so forth. So it's something to consider. So besides the fact that we have another golden creature on the timeline, could this also be something that's anti-gravity based? So, you can look at all different reasons for and pro and against, but what feels right? Because I think as we go forward into the future, we're going to really start relying more on our intuition and our gut instincts and what we know is right versus what we may be told is right or wrong. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I love this, and I love talking about anti-gravity and anti-gravity creatures that might be exhibiting it. So
Well, this is new for me, and like you said, I live in California. I would love to see one of these teddy bear bees, or I'll try to pronounce it, Xylocopa varipuncta.
You got it. Yes.
Yay. I've seen we do have carpenter bees, but I haven't seen golden ones. So this is a really special bumblebee, because I've seen black ones. And so clearly this would be maybe a subspecies, or I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I've never seen a golden one. I would love to see a golden one. And I don't know about you, Shane. Have you ever heard of this?
Never heard it, never seen it. It's beautiful though. And I've been out to, I guess, as far, I've only been to New Mexico, I guess, Arizona. That's about as far west, but I've never seen them. I would think I would have noticed them if they're supposedly common, but nobody in the chat seems to remember them either. Let's see. Actually, I have a chat here from Benjamin, a comment from Benjamin. Said they use the same levitation that UFOs are harnessing. That's interesting.
Yeah, this is what you're saying, Chris. It's basically this electromagnetic field that's helping to generate anti-gravity or repulsion force against gravity. And that's extraordinary. It does seem like that might be what's going on. And it's the first anti-grav animal that I've heard of. But then you mentioned this other extraordinary animal. You mentioned the Egyptian scarab, right? And to me, this is extraordinary also, because it ties in with Carl Jung and the key word synchronicity that he coined after having experienced this time, many experiences really, but one in which there was a woman telling him a dream that she'd had about an Egyptian scarab. And as she was telling him the dream in his therapy office, there was a repetitive bump on the window. So he opened, Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, opened the window, and in flew a European scarab. And the odds of that happening exactly as that woman was describing a dream with a scarab was just off the hook. So I think these creatures are trying to tell us something, that there's something about anti-grav animals that are tied with synchronicity. And I think synchronicity, to me, is very connected with the Mandela effect, personal Mandela effects, personal reality shifts. I see a lot of that.
Yeah, and shout out to Scarab Performance too, since
yeah,
he's a Mandela Effect channel guy. So.
Levitation expert.
Yeah.
So you guys notice synchronicity too, tied in with all of this? Because it seems like there's a meta message happening here with anti-grav, synchronicity, and the golden timeline.
Yeah, and I also see the comparison with just the newness of it, with synchronicity. something just kind of coming into your reality in a new way. And I think that is part of, like someone said in the comments, of human evolution. We're seeing things differently. Our eyes are changing. So we can even say maybe they've been around, but maybe they didn't look quite like they do now, as we begin to see more frequencies, more colors, and perceive more. Because things look more vivid to me as well. Have you guys noticed that in the last few years? I didn't know if it was the sun getting whiter, the way it seems to get whiter, and it's making fluorescent colors. Like when people have some of these new shoes, I'm like, man, that new technology with the fluorescent colors is amazing. Look how it's just glowing so bright. But it could be the sun is so much whiter that those things are responding differently too. So much going on. But I know many of us in the Mandela effect community do remember a yellow sun growing up, and now it's so white and pure white.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I see the sunlight coming into my bedroom in the morning, and it's like the white LED lights coming through. Like you can see that the color has definitely changed.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can look out on whether it's the lawn or the trees, and they just seem to be like glowing more.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before the show too, that basically like our human eyes can only see less than 1% of the visible light spectrum that's out there. So, and there's phenomena happening, like sometimes people will see what's called floaters. They'll see like these little dark things moving around. And could those be signs of the veils starting to be lifted so that we get to start to see more into the unseen world? So to me, everything's on the table. I think it's going to be such an exciting future. It's really cool stuff. What about you, Cynthia?
I agree with you, and I've been coincidentally looking into some work of Dr. Hamer, and just yesterday, coincidentally, Synchronicity, maybe not. Someone told me that floaters, when you look them up in a book about Dr. Hamer's work, it translates to this interest in seeing things that don't seem to be there. And so it seems like this is definitely indicative collectively, as many of us are noticing floaters at this time. And I think you were talking about that, Shane, that we're just opening up this ability to see more as we get older. And that flies in the face of the kind of typical wisdom that we hear. Like you get older and you're supposed to, like, it's all supposed to be collapsing, cancel. But that's what people say. That's not what we're experiencing.
No, not at all. And it's funny you said in your face. And when you mentioned the floaters, I actually had one flying right in my field of view. They're normally off to the side and your eye tries to catch it and it just keeps moving away or whatever. That's how you know it's in your eye, But just as you said, that one floated right across my field of view. Synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, what does modern science say? Floaters are like something in the back of your eye, like cells, or there's something that's getting into your vision.
Right.
But I think it goes beyond that. I think there's more that we're going to start discovering that might have been viewed as something negative that actually is a sign of us starting to raise our frequencies even more.
That's what I like about the work of Dr. Hamer, the new Germanic medicine, because he's passed away now, but he was looking at energetic influences, looking at the kind of things we're talking about, like what's the message, what's really happening with whatever it is that you need to heal. Super cool. Okay, anything else we want to say about this beautiful anti-gravity golden teddy bear?
Well, I could bring in a comment by Tommy Apples, who says, when I discovered the ME about 3 years ago, I had multiple syncs daily. I had so many of them, it really shook me to my core. Nobody seems to have any normal response if I tell them. And it's sort of like that about much of what you try to talk to people about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But when you see it happening, you want to share it. And then, but I've done it around my household. Now, finally, my family's coming back to me with all these synchronicities. So it's happening for a lot of people that's paying attention to it,
Just being observant is all that it takes. Being observant of things that are changing. Be like, am I misremembering that too? Like There's been so many things like all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Let's move on to our sponsor number 2. This is totally new to me. Golden berries, known as the Inca berry, the Peruvian ground cherry, poha berry, and Cape gooseberry. They are wrapped in papery husk called a calyx that must be removed before eating. They are considered a superfood packed with nutrients at only 74 calories per cup. They have 34 unique compounds in golden berries that may have benefits for health, including blocking colon and breast cancer. So this is extraordinary, but it's completely new to me. I have not seen golden berries or heard of them, let alone found them in the grocery store, which apparently we can do. I don't know if they're common, but I think, Chris, you've got an example if you're willing to share it.
Yeah. So
Well, it's not paper covered, I don't think, like that.
No, package.
yeah, so I'm in the supermarket last week, and I'm going down the chocolate aisle, of course, and like chocolate covered golden berries jumped out at me, and I'm like, anything that's golden lately jumps out at me, and I'm like, golden berries, I never heard of it, so I had to buy the chocolate covered version, and they're pretty good. So I'd recommend them. A little bit of a sour tang to it, but with the chocolate, and they have all of these unique compounds that are considered a superfood. Why not include that with your chocolate? So.
And I would expect you would have heard of this both because it is a superfood and you have the grocery connection, about foods
Yeah.
to your business. So it's doubly interesting. And before the show, I think Chris, you were saying that this it seems like there's this fuzzy lack of data on when did these show up, which is so common with the Mandela effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was trying to do more research about it, and there isn't a lot of information out there about golden berries. So it's either something that was just newly discovered, or it's newly come onto the timeline, and there isn't a lot out there for it. So, I mean, you can find information, but not like you would expect to find. So, and I found that too with like when there seems to be history that's changed, there's not a lot of information that you can find about it. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later when we go through our updates about what we're doing personally. But yeah, I've been finding all kinds of like really interesting Mandela effects that for the most part are not, there's no historical record of them besides something very minor to show that they actually happened. And then the information you get on it is kind of fuzzy. So people should keep that in mind too. When you come across something that you feel is a Mandela effect, and you can't find all the right information, or you're trying to find videos and they're like, why are these videos weird and they're fuzzy? That could be something to do with the timelines and how they were brought into the timeline that we're on right now.
And sometimes we get more confirmation later occasionally. Like it's sort of like it builds the past back up.
Yeah, I was sorry to say that. Sometimes you'll look at something and it'll be fuzzy, and then you'll check a few weeks later, like the Rainbow Mountains. There was one location. A month later, I go to show somebody, and there's 4 locations. Like, whoa.
Yeah, and like Rainbow Island, like we
Right.
talked about one of our last shows. That
Yeah.
Cynthia found that island. Yeah, so it's
Yeah. So
so much.
we can expect to see more. But any chat about this one, the golden berries? Is this new to people too? Definitely new to all of us.
A golden episode. I like that. No, I haven't read anybody that saw it. Anything. I'll double check it.
Okay. Awesome. And for the chat again, thanks for doing any super stickers, any love that way.
Yeah.
We definitely are a nonprofit 501c3 organization and dedicated to bringing out information about the Mandela effect, finding excellent guests and so forth. So share the questions and comments along the way. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Sponsor number 3. This is the white cicada, known as the milky cicada or ghost cicada of Thailand. And you can see the wings look transparent, don't they, at the tips? You can see right through them, and then it's white. So there's you can see the ghost concept. It's not just white, but it's transparent.
Yeah, and this is like another one of those examples. So what we have on the slide is basically all I could find out about them, besides photos that people took. There's like no information online. I found one site that talks about white cicadas, but they're like, no, those are young cicadas when they're first born are white, and then when they mature, they turn darker. But this is a full-grown cicada, picture taken in Thailand or allegedly taken in Thailand. There's not a lot of information about it besides cicadas seem to be off too, right? And one of our last
Yes.
Yeah, like the years when they were supposed to emerge, they didn't emerge.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot. So there you go. A lot of interesting timeline things, for sure.
It's interesting. If you saw this sitting on someone's coffee table or something, you'd probably go over and pick it up and say, wow, this thing's neat, and it'd start flapping and scare you because it doesn't look like it would take off flying. It looks like some kind of pin that you might put on your blouse or something to me. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
right.
Teddy bear bee. It doesn't look like it's quite aerodynamic.
Right.
It looks fake or fanciful.
So the transparent part in the wings is not actually, it's actually something there, huh? It's
Well, you
like
can see little
glass
black
clear.
dots. There are some black indicators, but
Right.
yeah, there's something there. The wing is there.
It's interesting.
Very cool. New to you too, Shane?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful.
This one's very interesting. And this color white is one we often see also as representing, I think we've talked about it being a protector. So there's the possibility that the cicada is operating at a protective quality or capacity. And not just in Thailand. Usually these protectors seem like they have a very cosmic connection. They might be local, but they're also cosmic. I think that's true of the other white protectors we've seen, like the white redwood trees, the ghost redwood trees. And we've seen some of the white animals that are, they're not pygmy. I mean, what do you call that? They're missing the pigmentation. They're not albino.
Albino.
Yeah, it's leucism, but I don't know what's going on here. Do we know if this, we don't even know if this is leucism or what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's not albino, but I just got like an interesting little mini download that they could be protectors of time. So that would be interesting. I'll have to look into that a little bit more.
And thank God they're here, because we're going through this amazing portal that we just passed through. This is our second season, second episode, and we just passed through 2/22/22. So thank you.
Yeah.
This cicada is on time.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, please, Heather, to our fourth sponsor. Oh my gosh.
Here it is.
This one, oh my God. Okay, guys, you're going to not believe this.
Yeah, let's do the video first, just
Let's
to
do
like
the video.
set it up.
Yeah.
Oh, not this video, Heather. The video of the baby. That was going to be on, that was from somebody's post on Facebook.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for it, I'll just say that this is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Oh, here we go. It doesn't look real to me. It looks like a toy. It looks like I'm watching some kind of like a children's show, like that show about dragons or something. It doesn't look like, how could this be real? How could this have been an animal that has been on the planet? How did we not see this? How did we not know about it?
Look at that eye. Oh my gosh. It's like a googly eye, or you know, what do they call those?
And you
Little
might be
fake
thinking,
eyes.
okay, is it like, look at the paws. You got the fingers. You can see its little fingers in the hands, toes on the feet. And this lemur is actually more closely related to primates, apparently, than it is to something like a squirrel. So we've heard of flying squirrels. This is a flying primate, or they call it a soaring, gliding primate. But thank you. That was amazing. So now we can go back. Yeah, so that video of the baby, I think, to me, that just blew me away. What's your impression, guys? Chris?
So adorable. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Like at first I thought, is that like a puppet? Is that CGI? That can't be real. And yeah, they're known as colugos, or flying lemurs, which is really, or I should say, they glide.
And you were telling us before the show, Chris, that these maintain elevation, that when they glide, they're actually not losing. They're not falling.
Yeah, they don't lose altitude from tree to tree. So it almost, I don't know, it
Yeah.
sounds like they're flying to me.
Yeah, one of those bullet points on the slide here is they can go, they can travel as far as 230 feet from one tree to another without losing hardly any altitude, which that in itself is an amazing feat. It's like they're levitating a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their big eyes have to do, no doubt, with their being nocturnal. These are tree-dwelling mammals with the small head that we saw. They've got the front-focused eyes and excellent binocular vision. The adorable little round ears. But what I kept thinking was, if this was something that existed before, which I don't remember any kind of flying primate, I know kids would have done book reports on it, animal reports. You know, it would be like show and tell kind of a thing, or dressing up for Halloween as I want to be a flying primate.
You know where there was a flying primate?
No.
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Right? With the flying monkeys. That's the closest we've come to flying primates.
And here they are. Now we've got them in this reality that I don't remember ever having flying primates before.
And I was reading too that at first science thought that they were related to bats. And then they did a DNA analysis, and they're not related to bats. They're actually related to primates. So fascinating. And as we're talking about it, we can play that other clip, Heather, that
Do you think the
uploaded.
Wizard of Oz is going to Mandela effect
skin.
again to glide, my pretties, glide, perhaps?
Exactly.
This
So,
does look a bit like a bat hanging upside down slightly.
and not to be confused with flying squirrels, that's different. These guys, they only glide or fly at night. They're totally nocturnal. So they have to have special cameras and special equipment to capture this type of stuff that we're watching right now.
Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh. So it does remind me of a bat when it's soaring like that, or a flying squirrel.
Yeah, it looks like a flying squirrel to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting too, when it comes to flying squirrels, probably like around the year 2013, something like that. I was hearing noises in my roof, and I had like an exterminator come over, and he started talking to me about flying squirrels. And I'm like, squirrels don't fly. And he's like, you don't know about flying squirrels? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, that's the only way they're getting into your house. They're gliding from the tree into this opening in your roof and blah, blah, blah. So to me, flying squirrels were like one of my first things to, I didn't know it was a Mandela effect. I'm just like, what rock have I been under? I never heard of a flying squirrel before.
Well, I've heard of the flying squirrels, but never a flying lemur. And I love lemurs. I got to hold one when I was visiting in Bali, Indonesia. And it also had very big eyes, but it didn't have the wingspan or anything like that. It was just a regular lemur. This is amazing. This footage is extraordinary.
Cool.
So there we go. And if anybody knows about this in the chat or has comments, they can let us know. And if not, we can proceed on to our next sponsor, because we do have another one. We've got some extraordinary animals this month. This is the Atlas moth, number 5. The Atlas moth is perhaps most famous for markings on the upper corner of their wings, which bear a resemblance to cobra heads. If you look, you can kind of see them on the wingtips there. These Atlas moths are the largest moths in the world, or amongst the largest in terms of their wing surface area and wingspan. They reach a maximum wingspan of about 10 inches, and they live in Asia, from India to the Philippines and South to Indonesia, where cobras also live. And then I love this question: is the design of the wings intentionally looking like cobras to scare predators? That does seem possible. And again, we've got some of the gold color going on. We've got it's a slightly gold, almost a bit rainbowish animal, because it's got lots of colors going on. But a very interesting thing. And the name is interesting too, Atlas.
Mm. Definitely an interesting name.
So this one's new to me, a moth that is this large and looks a little bit like a cobra.
Yeah, and Benjamin in the chat is saying, looks like a snake mouth ready to bite. It does.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, the edges of the wings look exactly like could be the head of a cobra.
Oh.
And the fact that they're in the same part of the world where cobras live kind of like is a telling symbol as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is fascinating. It just seems like, and I think the Atlas symbolism, I had a feeling that you had a comment about the Atlas at one point, Chris. Am I confused, or did you say something about Atlas earlier? Maybe.
Did the statue change for people? Kind of like the thinker didn't.
Holding the globe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the statue with him lifting up the world.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
He's in a different position than people remember. Like, it's not, I don't know about that one. Like, I know the thinker because I had that on my desk growing up. But yeah, for a lot of people, maybe people can chime in the chat with if you know that change with Atlas holding up the earth. But
yeah, it feels like there's a connection with Atlas, and if there isn't, it feels like there will be.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something. Sometimes you get future memory. I've got a future memory on a big Atlas shift. So we'll see if
that thing is huge, though. Look at the hand compared to it. Wow.
And the snake energy is interesting because it's that reptilian energy that we all have we have a model of it inside of our brains. It's a very ancient, primordial way of cognition.
Yeah.
And we are evolving. So This is super cool. Oh, good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have a video.
This is gigantic.
Yeah, it's kind of spooky, but it's beautiful.
It looks even spookier in the video. Beautiful too. Yeah, that would pretty much terrify anything that can see that clearly. That looks like it's huge, and it looks like a snake, a flying snake.
Yeah.
Snakes have evolved.
It's even got a little red for the inside of the mouth there, he says.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And obviously they don't bite because
Good thing. Yeah, this one's extraordinary. So
It would be cool to see one of them in my backyard, but I haven't. That's awesome.
you have to visit Asia.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's proceed to our sponsor number 6. We've got one more. This one's not an animal. This is ground lightning. And if this is something that's new to some of us, I don't know if it's new to the folks who are joining us today, but clouds spew negatively charged electricity toward the ground. And you can see it looks like a tree to me with the branches in the trunk. So when this happens, the positively charged energy goes back up the channel that's created by the negative particles, and then lightning is created. So the part you see is the lightning streak going upwards. And that's why it's getting, it's bigger at the base and going up to the sky. That's what's unusual. I have never seen that before. And the part, I've just never seen anything like that. So we have a video, I guess. Do we have a video? Okay.
Yeah, this video was just posted on like Facebook, I think on the 20th of February. So that, there's the lightning strike. And it's weird. It looks like there's a dome like above where the lightning is happening.
It does.
And there's people on the beach, and you'll see them talking about it. We don't have to listen in because I think they're using some explicit language. But towards the end, some of their hair starts standing up, and they're saying like the whole beach, like everything felt really unusually warm at the same time too. So, what's going on with the Earth? What's going on with the planet? I hear like science talking about like how we've always known that the core of the Earth is like molten iron. And now that's starting to change. They're starting to feel that it may not be molten iron. It could be something else. So it feels like everything around us with the Schumann resonance spiking and going crazy and ground lightning coming up. It seems like we're not just raising our frequency, but Earth itself, like we're all vibrating higher. All kinds of really interesting things like this are happening.
That is super, super interesting. And it's new for you too, Shane? Or have you seen this?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard about it. I've heard that maybe that's what's happening with some of these trees that look like they burn from the inside out that people have seen in different parts. Mainly truckers, I think, have like noticed them like off on the side of the road. And it looks like people speculate maybe something's being projected down. But I've often wondered because of some of the evidence I've seen with metal fencing and the wires, it almost looks like it was almost a slow sort of lightning from the ground up. But no, that's within the last year. So this is all brand new to me, all this strange stuff with it.
For decades, I've heard of ball lightning, where you'll hear about lightning sort of like going inside someone's house and roaming down the halls and bouncing around. Like, whoa.
Right.
I've heard of that, but I've never heard of this, the ground lightning. So, and this is brand new for me.
Yeah.
How long have you heard about it, Chris?
I think I heard about it, but within the last 6 months, all the different types of cloud formations. There's just so many things going on in the environment, the different kinds of rainbows. It was about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I was in my car on the highway. I saw all these cloud bows coming out of clouds, and I'm like, and I wanted to take a picture, but like I'm in traffic and we're going over the speed limit, so it's hard to pull my camera out or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on around us in the sky and the ground, like everywhere. So I say we just keep being observant, because all these things have meaning. They're showing things are changing. And to me, I'm reading all like as a very positive type thing. These are all positive events that are happening.
Yes. Agreed. So any chat about this, or if not, we'll just...
Nope, I've never heard of them, they're saying. It looks like the movie I saw about the last man.
Nice.
No, that's about it.
I think when you look at the message in this, because I like to look at what could this be telling us, if this is something brand new, what is it saying? And you can look at what it looks like. It looks like a tree. It looks like a lightning tree.
And it's also reversed from what
it's going up,
Yeah.
which is, it's reversed. So instead of coming down, it's sort of like, now it's time to shine. Now it's time to reach up. Now it's time to, and it looks like celebrate. It looks like time to elevate, celebrate, level up. So it feels like an invitation to me.
Well, another thing that's reversed, I actually, in my drawing behind me at the top, I left the lines for a rainbow up there, but in my mind, I saw it colored reverse, right? So when I looked up a double rainbow, the upper rainbow is colored reverse.
Yes.
And that's actually the level where that's like the Christ at level of my drawing. So I found that interesting that I've got Christ up there in the middle of this upper rainbow, sort of showing the upper realms, the higher levels we can achieve that were once invisible to us, because I don't remember double rainbows growing up. I mean, this is like within, I think 2015 maybe was about the first time I'd seen it. So any double rainbows, and it seems to be increasing all the time,
I'd heard about them, but I didn't really see them until like 2011, I think. So that was it's like, wow, this is maybe a little bit before that.
Yeah, and I actually took a picture. It was my first Instagram picture I'd taken years ago, because it was already installed on my phone. And I went back and looked at it. And for me, it Mandela affected. I remember having a double rainbow, but when I looked at the picture, it says a double horizontal rainbow. And in my picture, they're flat. They're going across flat. And I was like, it's not a rainbow. It's a, what do you call it? It's not a bow. It's, flat lines of rainbow colors. So for me, I remembered a rainbow, but when I looked at the picture, it's a flat horizontal rainbow now. So.
Yeah, and there's things called moon bows, snow bows. I saw a picture of a triple rainbow. Wow. The aurora borealis is getting more intense, and there's things now called red sprites and all kinds of interesting things going on, how the electrons in the upper atmosphere gets excited by the energy coming in from the sun. So yeah, there's so many new exciting things. Absolutely.
And this one seems like it has symbolism. Oh, go ahead, Shane.
I was going to say, somebody pointed out how the bananas are backwards now. They used to hang down, but now they kind of are sprouting up. So that's another reversal.
Interesting.
Good point. That's a good one. And Chris, did you get any intuition on symbolism for you on this one? Because it seems so symbolic.
Expect your life to turn upside down. in a good way.
In a good way, yes. Thank you. Yes, how good can it get? Awesome. So that's it for the sponsors this week, except for our wonderful Patreon sponsors. We'll be thanking you specifically at the end of the show. So let's proceed to our updates. My first update, what an interesting month. It's gone so fast, even for a short month, but I was able to meet with Soul Spa University. She's somebody who joined into our chat room, and she had commented that she remembered, or that I looked a lot like her mother. This is a very interesting kind of a situation. So if people are interested in catching what is going on with that, and why would she think I might be her mother who died when she was a young girl? Why would she say that? What is that? Well, it gets into this idea of multiple realities and all the things we talk about on this show. But it's more a specific case. So I joined with her to do a series of shows on that topic, and that's been really interesting. And then yesterday I did a couple of shows, one for an Ontario TV station, and it was, of course, that portal to 2222. This is a big one. I think of all the portals, this may be the biggest one that we might see in our lifetime. So it's kind of like we've gone through a doorway, and a lot of us are feeling it. So when we were before the show, Shane I think you were mentioning about the floaters and so forth, and so you can talk more about that. But it seems like a lot of us are starting to get indicators that we're connecting with more levels of animals, plants, the dead, levels of ourselves, levels of others than ever before. And when I was doing the taping of the show yesterday, it's kind of funny to me because Rob McConnell was the technician, and he's a skeptic, but he's an open-minded, open-hearted skeptic. So a lot of the things I talk about with reality shifts and Mandela effect, he's a little bit kind of like, not sure. But during the taping of the show, as I was talking about quantum consciousness, quantum computing, and I was feeling in my heart a connection with computer technology, then suddenly, without him touching anything, the outro music for that segment started up. And then he said, I didn't touch anything. So we can expect more fun like that. I think it's fun in the sense that you might start noticing people who have been skeptics, people in your families, neighbors, and so forth, who you might have thought they're never going to see this Mandela effect. They're not going to see what we're seeing. Hang in there, because we've just gone through, I think, the portal of all portals. And I think this is the right place to be for all of us in this community together. So that's my update in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, we're going to need an update from Jerry, so we better pop him in here with us. What's up, Jerry? Perfect timing. Talk about synchronicity.
Could not have timed that any better, my friend. How we doing tonight, folks? Or today?
Awesome. Even better with you here.
Oh, thank you.
We might have to tag team. I was just contacted by my wife that they're going to shut down her work early because there's a snowstorm hitting us here in Tulsa. So I might have to head out in a little bit, but I'm good for now. So I'm just a little heads up. But thanks for showing up, Jerry.
My pleasure. I accidentally overslept just a hair. My apologies, folks. Apparently, I don't get enough sleep as it is, but here we are.
Good to see you, man. How are things?
Oh, man, it has been crazy, dude. We have started a new show over on the Dark Wolf's Den show. It's not on YouTube, unfortunately, folks. YouTube doesn't deserve to host this particular show. We put it on BitChute and Rumble. It's called Censored Freedom. It's a morning news show. All the Patriot news you can handle in 30 minutes or less. Yeah, I stole the Domino slogan. I'll admit it. So we've been doing that every single morning. That's 7 days a week, every day, 5 a.m. on the East Coast and 2 a.m. on the West Coast. So we've got that going on. We've doing the Dark Wolf's Den show prime time, of course, with the Paranormal State of Mystery on Wednesday and Freedom Flame series on Thursday. So I've been a pretty little busy boy this past couple months, kicking off this new show and keeping up with the primetime shows. And I do apologize that I was a little late today. Like I said, overslept with trying to keep up with so many. I've got 3 on-air shows today.
Excellent.
Thanks for that update. That's great. And you're just in time for this. You're the one who suggested our topic today, and you're in time for that too. So we'll be right into that after these updates. So
I'm
Shane,
super excited about today's topic too.
Yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time preparing for this huge freedom convoy going across the country. A couple of my viewers that's been watching me for a while are truck drivers, and they'll watch me over the road, but they're heading up to DC in this freedom convoy, and we're going to be sort of riding along with them and sponsoring them and helping them out. We thought, learning from Canada's mistakes, that we were going to kind of diversify or just find a trucker to support that's doing this to keep everything sort of separated. And so, yeah, if you're interested in that, come on over to the channel and follow along. It's really, this is a wonderful, exciting time in history right now that's unfolding. And I don't think we're going to see just how beautiful it is until looking back on it. But I'm enjoying it in the moment right now. This is like so many people have cabin fever. They're ready to get out and be around people, see people's smiling faces. And this is one of those opportunities that people are going to be able to do that and share the love and make those connections. And I thank Canada for sort of sparking this whole global movement right now.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's called the People's Convoy, right? In America.
Yeah, the
Wednesday.
one that starts today. Yep.
Arrives just in time before Biden's address to the,
State of the Union. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, Chris, love to hear your update.
Okay, I've got, like everyone else, I've got a lot of things going on. One of the big things for me is I just finished filming another 8-part series for Symphony of Realities. And, there's a lot of editing that has to be done. So I'm probably going to start releasing them next month. But I cover these 8 topics. The first one is called higher self trading. You might be like, what the heck is higher self trading? And I explain what that concept is and how we're probably doing it right now. Our higher selves are actually using this concept so that we're actually growing and expanding from that. The other thing I get into, the second thing I get into is called light language. And a lot of people have heard of light language. They may have heard people speak light language. They may not understand what light language is, but I address it from the scientific point of view first as to what it is and how it works with frequency and how your DNA can actually be affected by that. And then I kind of go out on the edge a little bit, and in that episode, I actually speak some light language, and you'll learn more about that when I do that. So I think that's a really cool topic to talk about. By the way, I call these concepts flipping the chessboard concepts, because once you understand these things, even if you don't agree with them, it starts giving you information that you've never heard of before. You expand your consciousness, and then you, what I call flip the chessboard, which means you stop playing the same game of chess that goes on forever, back and forth and back and forth. You call checkmate and you start your own game. So that's what the flipping the chessboard concept is. I get into bilocation. I get into portals. I get into the concept of what are called control rooms. I talk about my trip to Kansas. I talk about the Wizard of Oz. I also give updates about what's happening with astronaut Gus Grissom and Topsy the elephant. Lots of synchronicities going on there. And people that have seen my videos, they know about Topsy and they know about Gus Grissom. And I had some amazing synchronicities when I went to Kansas. Totally, you'll have to watch the video to hear about them all. The fifth thing I talk about are timeline brand takeovers, which was what happened with Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing and Kraft, and what the meaning of that was. I get into more about Mandela effects and timeline insertions. I talk about chess moves in the Earth game and explain how that works a little bit more. And then finally, I wrap it up with what I call reality and you. So all these things to like just introduce concepts to people that they may have heard about. Some people will watch these videos and be like, oh, I always knew about that. And that's totally fine. But for a lot of people, they don't know what those concepts are. So
yeah, actually, Omega Spark in the chat right now says, Chris, your videos are really helping me wake up. Can't wait for these new ones. So thank you so much for that comment, Omega.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm having a lot of fun making them too. So I feel like my own consciousness expands when I create them. And thank you everyone for watching them, and please share them. Yeah, so that's what's going on with me. Oh, one more thing. I got a new cat. It's a Sphinx cat. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen Sphinx cats before, but they're basically bald. They have no hair, and they're named after the Sphinx, like from Egypt. And yeah, and I'm doing like this little promo video for this flipping the chessboard, and I bring my Sphinx cat in. He's still a little kitten. I call him Radamaze. I call him Rad for short, and that's from that famous Disney Broadway show called Aida, which I talk about in one of my videos that no one's ever heard of. But yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I tried to keep it short, but thank you for everyone for listening. And in the month of March, you're going to start getting a lot of content from me. So.
Oh, thank you for the update. And
Awesome.
oh, that was cute. I love it. Yay.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
that's adorable.
Radamaze.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Are they anti-allergenic?
Yeah, some people get them because they don't have any. If you're allergic to cat fur, yeah, that's the reason they get them. They are like this guy. Like he's like a parrot. He always wants to go on my shoulder all the time. And they just love their human. So they're always purring and always want to climb on you. And they're almost like they're a dog. It's really interesting.
Oh, sweet.
It's adorable, Chris.
Yeah.
Totally adorable. Awesome. And I think we've got one more slide and something that Shane wanted to talk about. Maybe we could all talk about it. So let's do the next slide, and it's where we dive into the theories. There we go.
Yeah. Well, it was actually funny because last night at 2200 hours and 22 minutes, 10:22 p.m. basically, it was 22 degrees outside here. the temperature was dropping, but it just happened to be 22 at 22:22 on 22:22. So here we have all of these twos. You can, as you read there, you can read it frontwards, backwards, and upside down. It's a palindrome and an ambigram. So that's pretty interesting there.
But this is symbolic of what we're going through. This particular portal is like that ground lightning. We've always had downloads. Now we're going to start going up. So, or what Chris was just referring to, flipping that chessboard. Now it begins. So game on.
Game
Going
on.
through it together.
You know, the date itself is cool, the number system. The fact that it fell on a Tuesday is just really cool.
You're right.
And this is our second season, second episode, so we're part of it.
Right.
That way.
Season 2, episode 2. That's funny.
Oh yeah, right. That's very cool.
So I love it. So that way I think we can dive in, and if you want to take it away, or if Jerry wants to lead the way through our theories, he is a man of the community. I think most of you know Jerry Dark Wolf Hicks as being what we call the father of IMEC, because he really did help bring us together. And I think all of us are interested in all these theories. That's why we picked the ones we'll be going through. But
Yeah.
you can take it away, Jerry.
Thank you, ma'am. I sincerely appreciate that. I am Jerry Dark Wolf Hicks, as she said, one of the 4 founders that are left of IMEC, and considered the father of IMEC. And you know, another thing I'm considered the father of is the theory series on the Mandela effect on YouTube. I was the guy that actually went out there and started pulling these theories together and trying to aggregate them for the community. And one of the theories that we do have over on the list over there is one of them that I don't personally put as much into, but I can't put as much as into any of them, as I've got to stay unbiased and, you know, kind of be open about all of them. So the first one is computer simulated reality. Like we had Mr. McDonald on, and he spoke of the larger consciousness system in such a way as to suggest that everything would be simulated. Not necessarily. Tom Campbell, thank you, ma'am. I said McDonald, didn't I? Campbell, my apologies. We definitely have not had Tom McDonald. I don't think he would. Yeah. Anyway, moving along. This isn't necessarily living in a like my box of cards here is digitized, and I'm digitized, and we're all digitized per se. Like you would consider a standard computer, but more of a conscious simulation. Like you've seen The Matrix. Everybody here's seen The Matrix, right, guys?
Yeah, we actually have a short clip from The Matrix we could play that where Morpheus explains this theory. Maybe
is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different. The plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today. What is the Matrix? Control.
I think
the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
No. I don't believe it. It's not possible.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth.
Stop. Let me out. Let me out. I want out.
I was going to say, I think that's most people's reaction when they think about that concept. Could this be actually a holographic reality? Could there be technology involved? But I'll let Jerry continue, and I'll add my own 2 cents as well.
Well, those are really good questions, Chris. And for those thinking this sounds just so far fetched, this is so non scientific, that is so not true. Scientist and physicist Leonard Susskind, it's not considered some wild speculation amongst most theoretical physicists. It has become a working everyday tool to solve problems in physics. So, this concept of a everything around us being a computer simulated reality isn't necessarily as out there and as fringe as one would think. Chris, what kind of technology would you need to create a computer simulated reality like this?
Well, you definitely need some kind of a super quantum computer. And then when you start investigating this, then I think the next logical thing for people to start thinking about is if this is a projection, if this is a hologram, if we are avatars, if everything around us uses this concept called hard light technology, which is basically the concept of cymatics, where you can put like sand or liquid on a vibrating plate and it forms different geometric patterns. There's levitational cymatics, which is another very interesting study about how you can lift things with just the power of sound. These are all like really, really interesting, but I think almost like the next step. If this is a projection, where's base reality? And then, how do you start to define these things? What I've been learning is that I'll call it the Milky Way campus, but could a lot of this be like a type of school? And how do you define things? I define things like they start at the planetary level, the solar level, suns, solar systems, galaxies, universes, multiverses, ultraverses, something else called the planes of authority, and then all time and space. So you've got all these different types of concepts going on, but it does help explain a lot of different things. So when I was first learning about this, I was like, no way, this can't be true. This can't be holographic. But then the more you get into it, it's like, it's a possibility that I think we all should discover because it helps, put some of the puzzle pieces together. So
You say that movie Free Guy. I know you did a special movie with, or a show with you and Sean Bond about Free Guy.
yeah.
Would that tie to this too?
Yeah, it basically, like in the whole concept with Free Guy, he puts on the glasses, like that other, what's that other movie? They Live. Is that what it's called? Where they put on the glasses and all of
Yes,
a
sir.
sudden they see the truth of what reality is around them, which kind of makes sense because our eyes only see less than 1% of the visible light spectrum that's around us. So is there a lot more that we can see? Are these floaters that people start experiencing in their eyes? Is it just some problem with your eyes, or is there more to reality that's starting to be exposed to us? So
People see what's called digital snow too, as if they were literally looking at the snow on a TV screen, the old school TVs that would
yeah,
white
okay.
out. So people literally see that through their eyes. Not everybody, but a majority of people, I'm told, when they look at like the sky or like a base color like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I see that too, especially at night. It's almost like everything becomes pixelated. And I'm
Mhm.
like, everything is all shiny and sparkly and pixelated. And I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Or is this like starting to see through reality when your frequency starts to get to a certain level? And then I found ways where you could force yourself to see a glitch in the matrix. The way I do it, or what I've been taught, is something called spatial referencing, where you take something like your hand and you focus on an object in the foreground, not a living thing, something like a rock or something that's not stationary, something that's solid in time. And then you take your focus and you're looking at this object in the distance, and then you look at your hand quickly, and you'll feel like a snap. You'll feel like, oh, like you could tell like something just happened with your vision. And to me, it's like you're giving yourself a little glitch in the matrix to show how you're leaving the let's say this is a projection, and you've got your avatar observing through the projection. And then when you change your focus, you get that little glitch where your brain just goes like, whoa, I need to refocus again. So there's all kinds of cool things like that.
I want to chime in with the chat. Let me go back up a little bit. Starting with Benjamin Brieg, who says, feels like my life. And then we have repping the 303, we live in the Matrix. Omega Spark says, giant holodeck. Saudi B says, all of the above, Chris. And then he also goes on to say, there is no base reality. The bottom of it all is the initial particle. And I think you've mentioned before, turtles all the way down or something, right, Cynthia?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that idea of what is the base reality? If we're in some kind of a simulation, then how far down does it go? Who's operating this? What is the real reality? If it's all like a game, like in Free Guy or something.
Yeah.
Or the Matrix almost felt like, what is this designed for? What's going on? So it starts creating a bunch of questions. What, why, when, where?
Yeah.
Where's the basis?
Yeah, because even in the Matrix movies, like, you know, they're humans that are in pods, right? But maybe base reality is different. Maybe we're actually photonic beings of light. Maybe we're actually bands of frequency that are somehow plugged in, having not just this experience. I think this experience is not even 1% of what we're experiencing, actually. And then you get into the concepts of time and space and linear time and everything happening at the same time. So is it possible that in a base reality, we're literally photonic beings of light, bands of frequency, plugged into a super quantum computer, learning and growing and having all these experiences? And then what's happened here? Like, why is this particular Earth realm like not going the way it should go? You know, all the different problems we see in the world, wars and blah, blah, blah. So what happened, you know, with this particular realm? So it leads to more questions, which lead to more questions, which lead to answers, which just, even if you don't accept them, they're just things that continue to expand your consciousness.
Even the bad things, like you were saying, like it being a school, because if you look at everything that's going on right now and the results of that, these people coming together in unity, you know, you can see a direct positive coming out from clearly negative things happening around the world where people are awakening to what's really going on. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like it totally fits with the classroom scenario, or that perhaps we created this. We're the architects of this reality. And then we've inserted ourselves into this game or this reality to experience and to learn. So I think that totally fits. You know?
I love the wording you use about the game, because I was just going to say it's a lot like the idea that we're going to wake up one day and take the headset off and be in a completely different reality, right? Oh, that was a game. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember putting that on, you know.
Right.
We got lost in the game, so to speak. We got amnesia. And we were convinced that, you know, and science around us told us this is real life, people. Like, this is all there is. When there's actually a lot more to it than that. So,
well, like Alan Watts said, he would explain how we've done it for a while where we remembered, and then we thought, wouldn't it be fun to forget and then go, you know, play out a role, live a life like we're living right now, basically, you know, because we're living under this idea that there's a limit to time, that there's not an abundance of time. So here we feel this lack, right? Like, I only have so much time. I wouldn't want to live this life. I would have wanted to live some other life. But you know, the reality that there is no time and you could spend 1 billion years living out multiple lives is a possibility outside of whatever we're calling this. And I think, like timelines, I don't think it's accurate, but I think it's helpful to discuss. Same way here with a computer simulation. I think it's helpful to discuss, but I don't really think we're inside of a computer. I think it's more of a consciousness sort of soup, if you will, you know, where things kind of collapse. And I think we have a few proofs that sort of mirror the simulated reality. Like when you think of quantum entanglement, it doesn't seem like any distance. If we're in something that's a single whole, right, then it would make sense that you see weird things like the relationship between time and the speed of light, you know, how one seems to affect the other, the quantum entanglement we see, the fact that, you know, with the double slit experiment, things that you observe change, they collapse, you know, you collapse the wave function. And games are a lot like that, you know, where it's not rendering everything you don't need to see. It's only rendering what you need to see on your display, because it would be a waste of resources. And that kind of gets into the movie, the Matrix, or the Mandela Effect movie, because they were trying to overload the system in that movie by sort of making everything get triggered as if it's being observed at one time and crash the system. That's sort of their idea with that movie. So
Well, getting back to the theory itself, I think a lot of people notice that they do see the glitches, they do see the pixelation, And so then when they look at the various theories, this is one that tends to come to mind. It starts looking like, well, it's kind of like you're solving a mystery, like who done it? Like, okay, who's causing this Mandela effect? And if you're seeing the glitches, you're seeing the pixelation, of course you're going to start thinking, there's a smoking gun over here. Guys, it's got to be a computer simulated reality, because what else could be causing glitches? Like they talk about, there's a glitch in the Matrix when that cat walks through the doorway and then it walks through again the second time. Some of us, show of hands, have seen exactly that in real life. I have. Yeah, show of hands. Okay. So when you see that, this is not my go-to theory, but I'm just saying, this is, when you look at it like a whodunit, like, okay, is the motive there? Is the opportunity there? Like, yeah, this could be a contributing player. This theory is strong because, and then that pixelation that you're noticing and describing, Chris, I've seen it too. Show of hands, seen pixelated reality. Okay, so we've seen pixelated reality. We've seen glitches. Now you can start to see why there's such a strong fascination with this particular theory, especially the computer version of the simulated reality theory, because all simulated reality theories are not computer ones. This is a special case, and we're looking at that one right now.
What would you argue is being simulated, or even the simulation machine, opposed to a digital machine?
Well, we're talking about all of reality being simulated, right? So, but I think what I start when I ask myself the question, well, is it possible that we're seeing some semblance of this? And I think the answer is yes. Yes, there's a possibility. So does that mean that there's some artificial intelligence player operating some of this? Possibly, yes. But I don't get spooked or thrown off by, I do take it seriously, very seriously. But when I see that there's a possibility that that's a player, I know that player is never going to be as big as divine source, the creator, God, zero entropy, whatever name you want to call it, the census taker. Lots of names for God, source, creator. But that zero entropy love being, it's at the pin. I show this image because it's at the top of the perennial philosophy. They all come together there. And as we level up through consciousness, we get to a place where we go outside of time. And the ultimate player who plays outside of time is the creator. It's God. And that's always going to be greater than any AI intelligence, any game intelligence.
Isn't it something too how the Mandela effect starts to expose these things, or it exposes us to question what reality is? If it wasn't for the Mandela effect, probably none of us, we wouldn't have the IMEC to begin with. But I think that's really interesting. And soft disclosure, like the movie Tron, for example, they enter a computer mainframe, and there's a whole existence that they have within this mainframe. So there's bits and pieces of evidence, and eventually we're going to start figuring it out for ourselves. And, what does our intuition tell us? That's part of it too. Like, we can look at theories and look at what science tells us. And they're good guideposts for sure. But a lot of it's going to be like, what do we actually feel is going on? And that's probably going to be the most accurate way for us to explain what reality is.
I love that. And I think I've long felt this intuitive knowing that it's time to find our way out of the machinery. And I think what we're seeing is life on autopilot with the movie The Matrix. We're seeing people who are just going through motions, and they're not really deeply engaged at that soul level with their lives. And I think this is a time of great awakening that we're entering right now with the Mandela effect.
That and that portal date of the 22222. And like, just to add more to it, like, I think a lot of things are technology, and I believe that there's been technology that's been holding you, like almost like casting spells, or like making us believe different things about reality. I believe that a lot of that machinery is going to start to be shut down, and that's going to include even things like the concept of false light, because there's a lot of like false light teachings, and those need to go away. Like, so I'm just happy we got through the 22222 date. So yeah, it's onward and upward from here. I don't know if it's going to be smooth sailing completely, but it's definitely going to be more enlightening as we go forward.
Yeah, Teresa Richards in chat points out that the movie The 13th Floor, they enter a computer simulation. That is a pretty good movie. I think came out around 2000. Benjamin Briggs says, like the movie Zardos by Sean Connery. I'm not familiar with that one.
I can't say I'm familiar with that one either. Anybody else?
Check it out.
Oh, I have not heard of it. That is, we'll look it up.
It's probably a Mandela affected movie, right? Something out of nowhere.
It never existed before 2 weeks ago. No.
That's actually happening a lot to me. People are recommending movies and Netflix series to watch, and I'm like, I never heard of that before. Like the movie just came out last year or something. I never heard of that movie, whatever it was. So
that one you mentioned, Free Guy, Chris, you said, what was that movie? Because that's new to me too.
Free Guy? Yeah, that.
Also, not Free Guy, but the other movie.
Oh, They Live? The James Carpenter movie that's from the 80s, actually.
Yeah, I should have known about that.
I know,
Cool.
I know. I didn't learn
Wasn't
about
it
myself.
Roddy Piper that was in it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it until 2017. It came into my awareness. But
And that episode of The Twilight Zone where they did basically a Mandela effect with the astronaut. I'd never seen that before.
yeah.
Episode 121, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken.
So a thought to consider with the whole idea of a computer simulation is one of the things I noticed, it seemed like our computers was moving from sort of like our left brain, ones and zeros, more of an analytical ones and zeros computer system to what we call a quantum computer, where it seems like that's more like our right brain, right? It's not either black or white. It's not, a 1 or a 0. There's like other possibilities. And it seemed like if this were a computer simulated reality, it would have to be of the quantum sort, not the digital sort,
Absolutely.
Meaning ones and zeros.
But that doesn't change the fact that we still want to play that. We want to flip the chessboard and all that.
Right.
Well,
It just means it's easier to do.
That's true. I believe our own Cynthia Sue Larson has been quoted a number of times stating that all of the theories, as we'll find to be true tonight, but this one especially, this simulated reality theory, it all stems from one level that we don't give as much credence to. Again, we talked about with Mr. Tom, and that is consciousness. All the theories can stem back from it could be a simulation of consciousness itself, which would also explain why at some deep level, every last one of us seem to be connected, at least to some degree. Have the same thoughts, put these thoughts into consciousness, and others start using them and picking them up all the way down to specific words, right? So it could be that this is a consciousness simulation. What do you guys think of that concept?
Yeah,
I definitely think consciousness is connected with you.
but consciousness is greater than any simulation.
Right.
It's going to break free. It's already free. It's there.
Right. It would be what goes beyond the game, if you will, or
Right.
this construct, right?
There's a
Like
certain
love.
sovereignty.
I think love is one of those concepts that go beyond whatever this is,
Across all boundaries, across all divides, divisions. Yes.
Yeah, if you think about it too, double split experiment, observer changes the observed, Schrodinger's cat is dead and alive. Like all these types of concepts show us that everything is consciousness energy. And then the next level is, can we control that? Can we actually learn to manifest from it and like take things to another level? And I think that's what we're going towards. I think we're going towards understanding reality and understanding consciousness. We're going to understand how to manifest. We're going to understand how we can change our lives. We don't have to be trapped in this like debt system prison kind of thing that we're in. There's going to be like all these realizations we're going to start getting. So,
and the Mandela effect shows how to bring this participatory universe idea into this amazing way of having delayed choices. We can see that the past can change, that we're witnessing dead animals alive again, extinct species back, the Lazarus animals and so forth. So no problem. We've got this.
yeah.
It's almost like we're the creator and the player at the same time. Really interesting
Levels,
concept.
Yeah, that gets into, and I love that consciousness definition by Life Needs, but this is supposed to be about theories, so we don't need to get.
Well, let's theorize our way into the next one. We have, let's go ahead and get the next There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Slide on screen. Apparently, my brain isn't as awake as the rest of my body yet. My apologies, folks. This is the most well-known concept in the community. Now, this is one that I'm not going to lie. I have noted more than once that this is not my favorite concept. This is the idea that there is a number of parallel universes, an infinite number for lack of a better description, in which we all tend to slide through, whether it be our consciousness, our physical bodies, that's up for debate. But the idea is that we're jumping between these parallel universes on every shift. So one shift we would be in universe A, then we'd shift to universe B, then shift to universe C, so on and so forth. Now, I will tell you, as the theory guy, as the guy collecting evidence, trying to put together what's going on here, the evidence, the evidence that I've collected suggests this more so than most other theories. That said, that does not help me because I'm more of a single timeline theory guy myself. The idea that one timeline is being messed with, but I will openly say the evidence more suggested this idea of the parallel universe, as we see here, Scully, Mulder, and I can't remember the character's name right off the top of my head.
The stranger.
The stranger.
Just called the stranger.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And we have a clip. We have that clip. It's like a minute.
The ability to manipulate memory creates unlimited power. Political, economical, cultural, runs the gamut from Holocaust denial to corporate product recognition. There are companies who are willing to pay anything, do anything, to have people forget that their products explode on impact or suddenly catch fire. Companies like G spending billions in profit to repress these memories. The only thing I haven't been able to do is to figure out how they're doing it.
They can't. I'm sorry. But this is ridiculous. I mean, the Mandela effect is simply...
It's the Mandela effect, guys. It's the Mandela effect. Just say it.
Is simply people misremembering stuff.
But maybe this is actually evidence of a parallel universe.
Wait, what?
So maybe these differences in collective memories are actually evidence of our universe somehow becoming intertwined with another, if not identical, then very similar universe. So people's memories are correct. They're just remembering something that happened in another dimension. Hence the discrepancies. That's science, Scully.
Theoretical science at best, Mulder.
Yeah, we're not gonna do this parallel universe sci-fi gobbledygook nerd boy, okay? So just please drop it, because that crap gives me a headache.
It's a lot better than some evil entity zapping people's brains with a hypno ray gun.
I never mentioned a hypno ray gun.
Guys, it's faulty memory because Occam's razor.
That's Ozzy's razor, not Occam's. It's always been Ozzy's razor.
Maybe in a parallel universe it is, but in still yet another universe is perhaps known as Occam's axe.
It's not parallel universes!
Occam's axe.
What's funny is, aside from the Occam's and the Mangala part, I've had that conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I've had that conversation. It's parallel universes. It's not parallel universe. Yeah, I've had that more times than not, as a matter of fact. And for those, again, thinking this sounds a little bit, and we'll get into conversation here in just a second, it sounds a little bit fringe and out there. Video particle theorist Alan Guth, among others, speaks heavily about the possibility of the multiverse, as well as Dr. Michio Kaku. I wish I had actually grabbed that clip, but I just now thought of it. Fringe is another one, Juanito, yes, that actually mentions the TV show Fringe. But what do you guys think of this? This is, like I said, the most popular theory in the community. Do you think this could be what's going on?
Well, it's got another quantum aspect to it. I think, I love all the ones that have a quantum components because they have a consciousness component. So absolutely. And we see evidence within the quantum physics realm for the existence of parallel universes. It's also known as many worlds interpretation of quantum physics. So that's the idea of Hugh Everett III, who, when he first came up with this idea, it sounded crazy. People basically laughed at it. But now, when you mention that the physicist Alan Guth is basically backing it up. He is the winner of $1 million research prize. So Alan Guth is no lightweight. It's not like some strange fringe physicist who's saying that there's something to it. No, this is a big name.
Yeah,
So,
do we have that video queued up, Heather, of Alan Guth talking about the multiverse and
Well, it's
his
great to
inflation?
get together again. The last time we talked, maybe 6 years ago, and what I've noticed is among cosmologists, there seems to be now almost an assumption that multiple universes do exist and talking about the details of it, etc., as opposed to asking the question, is this a danger?
Well, it's hard to know. I think it's unfair to say that everybody who works in cosmology believes in the multiverse. It's still treated as a hypothesis, but it is certainly a hypothesis that more and more people are talking about.
To what do you attribute that to?
What I think I attribute it to is the mystery of the cosmological constant. Which we interpret as indication of energy density of the vacuum, non-zero energy density of just empty space. Now, from the point of view of particle physics, that's not exactly a surprise that it exists, because the vacuum, it really is a very complicated state. There are quantum fluctuations all the time, particles that appear and disappear back into the vacuum. And now with the discovery of the Higgs particle, we even have very firm evidence that there's a field in nature which has a non-zero value in the vacuum on average. The problem, though, is that when we try to estimate what that energy density might be, we miss by a fantastic factor, a factor of like 10 to the 120. One with 120 decimal zeros after it. So it's a big mystery why the energy density of the vacuum is so incredibly low compared to what we might expect.
And theoretically, it has to be somewhere in that range in order to allow what we see to occur with the formation of galaxies and stars and planets and life as we know it.
That's right. For life to evolve, there's at least a good argument that one needs to have an incredibly narrow, incredibly small value for this vacuum energy. But the best mechanism we know for sort of producing that is the multiverse. And most of the people here accept more or less the ideas coming out of string theory that there's a colossal number of possible vacua that are allowed by the ultimate laws of physics. And they would have a spread of energy densities, and because there's so many of them, like 10 to the 500, even though the number that we see is incredibly small compared to the spread, there still will be many different vacua in that interval.
What are some other pieces of evidence? Because there are multiple ways that that seem to confirm the existence of it.
Well, the other argument that I rely on is the simple fact that there's a lot of evidence for inflation, and almost all versions of inflation lead automatically to eternal inflation, inflation that once it starts never ends. And this eternal inflation goes on, producing what in this context we usually call pocket universes, but we would be living in one of these pocket universes.
So that's in a sense a two-step process to the multiverse. One is that you need inflation in this universe to explain how this universe works, and then when you have inflation, when you look at inflation, you say, whoops, you know,
right.
once I get this thing
once
started.
Once you got it, it's hard to stop. Exactly. Right. So even though we can't see these other universes, we can say that the same theories that give us the best explanation we have of the properties of our visible universe predicts that it's going to go on forever, producing an infinite number of pocket universes.
Yeah, see, like I find this really fascinating, and I find that this theory for myself actually also dovetails into the holographic theory too, because what if all of time and space was in some kind of technology, like some kind of a super quantum computer? And then you've got all the levels below that, the planes of authority, the ultraverse, the multiverse, the galaxies, the solar systems, the suns, the planets, etc. So both these theories could work together to explain what reality is. So when people, like when we're talking about these things, they don't have to be, these concepts don't have to be exclusive to each other. They can actually somehow work together. So I wanted to make sure people consider that possibility as well.
I agree with that. And that's exactly the choice I made when I wrote Quantum Jumps. I brought together the holographic and the multiverse concepts and put that on the cover of the book, because that was my choice, my go-to. Because it just seems like those two together, it's perfect, or as close as we've seen so far. You know, but let's stick with this parallel universe, and let's stick with what Alan Guth is saying. That was brilliant. This is one of our most brilliant living physicists. I want to keep saying, Not to put anybody else down, I'm not trying to do that, but Alan Guth is a pure genius. So let's just start there. So when he's talking about inflation, he's talking about the Big Bang, that the fact that began, and that once you start something, it's almost like starting a nuclear reaction. Once you start that reaction, it's going. We try to control it with our nuclear reactors and so forth, but it's just going, and it's big. And the pocket universes he's talking about, that's sublime. And I know Chris has covered this in some of his videos. The pocket universes is brilliant, because that gets into this idea of how would we witness this? And I'm showing that again on the cover of Quantum Jumps also, that's that jump. Then, of course, the other evidence that Alan Guth points out, he brings up two genius concepts. And the other one is that vacuum, that it's not behaving the way we expect to see a vacuum behaving, that there's energy density that's just, it's like way low, and there's more going on than we can possibly explain. So it's sort of like what we're seeing when we look at the universe is different than what all of our laws of physics would currently suggest should be the case. So there's something different going on, and it just seems to keep leading toward that multiverse concept.
Yeah, and then there's also the concept too, where I've heard these other types of universes are called harmonic universes, inferring sound, and we can travel to higher and higher harmonic universes, so to speak. So in the past, we could have been in a lower harmonic, lower frequency, lower vibration, and then we're continuing to raise up and go into these higher frequency harmonic universes. And it reminds me of that, I think it's called Mandelbrot, but there's a type of like design where things keep changing and morphing, and it's really fascinating. And it almost reminds me of what Alan Guth is talking about with inflationary theory, about how things, once you start off the process, they could just keep growing and morphing and changing, and etc. So
I haven't had those arguments like what you're talking about, Jerry, but I tend to, either people's eyes glaze and they start walking backwards from me, or I do talk to physicists, and then they're sharing some of their theories, like Fred Alan Wolf and Henry Stapp and so forth, and George Weissman. I like to talk to physicists, and some that I can't really name because they're still employed with companies where they might get dinged for being publicly outed as openly considering such a thing as the Mandela effect.
Right. Coming from a paranormal researcher's point of view, I would like to touch on one other theory, sort of, but it's kind of part of this one. That's the idea of the ghost being in another realm. So the concept of quantum immortality is the name of the concept, where you die, quote, quote, in this one, but your consciousness is merely moved to another version of reality, where to your perspective nothing has changed, you're still alive, but you literally left a world where you're considered dead in that world. So taking this concept to another level, you've got ghosts and hauntings, and a lot of these hauntings seem to be the person that they clearly were in life, and a lot of times they seem to be going about regular life, just going about doing regular things, making a cup of tea or crossing the road or whatever the case may be. And the idea is that there could be a parallel reality, or a number thereof, that are so thin to us that the people, the physical people like you, me, and everyone else on the other side of that appears as a ghost through the veil. Does that make any sense?
Actually, yes. And before the show, we agreed our next show will be Wednesday, March 30th. And we'll be talking about clearing of the veils, and it looks like quantum immortality. So be sure to join us. We're going to dive totally into this topic, and it's right up your alley. We knew you'd love it. So we're celebrating a birthday too, Shane.
That is too awesome. I think Shane's actually stepped away for a moment. But the fact that I wasn't here for that conversation and was able to trigger that's really cool.
In our hearts, you're always with us.
Oh, yeah, I love you guys.
It makes a lot of sense too, because as we're raising our frequency, are there other consciousness, people that have passed on, is their consciousness becoming more accessible to us? Because I've been having experiences where I'll do something like I'll be watching a video about something, and all of a sudden I'll get like a zap, and I'll be like, what was that? And then when I read into it, it's like, oh, that person who's passed has a message for me, and that type of a thing. So I think for a lot of us, that if it hasn't happened yet, if you're observant, those type of things could be happening as well, especially as we cross into these higher frequency bands. Like, because I believe that we don't, our consciousness is forever. It's immortal. So we don't actually die. Our bodies may die, our avatars may die, but we don't actually die. So, and I believe as we continue to go higher frequencies, we're going to be having more interactions like that. So everything's on the table.
Well, let me play devil's advocate there against you for one moment. Not that I personally believe that your consciousness isn't forever, but for sake of devil's advocate, I would argue that there is a limit on the number of years that you can be traveling through the multi-world verse, or whatever the case may be, and I believe that number would be 120, and here's why. In the Bible, it says man will be numbered 120 years. But a lot of us don't make it that far. However, if this concept is true that we literally jump realities when we die in one, if you will, then it only makes to reason that at 120 years, regardless of what reality you find yourself in, that would be when you would expire. Maybe even just physically, maybe not consciousness. What do you guys think of that concept?
I don't tend to put limits on things, just from what I've seen so far. Every time I've tried to do that, they've just been blown apart. So I'm not going to go there personally.
Yeah, and my personal belief system is about reincarnation. Like I believe that we've had other lives, and it may not all be human. We could have come from the stars. We could have had other lives in other solar systems, galaxies, universes, that type of a thing. And I believe that linear time, like how we are experiencing time, is like all at the same time. So right now we're experiencing this life in the year 2022, but there's other lives that we're also experiencing at the same time. So yeah, so like I'm on like another level where this isn't our first rodeo, so to speak. And even if we could have reached an age of 120, or some people in the Bible, like Enoch, I think reached 700 or 800. Like there's some long life people that are out there too, that we've actually have all these different experiences. And now it seems like in this particular lifetime, we're having the opportunity somehow to start consolidating them and healing past traumas and making our DNA vibrate at a resonance that works really well in what it's supposed to be. So yeah, that's my kind of response, is that like the whole thing that about reincarnation, we could have had hundreds or thousands of other lives before this particular one, going back to the ancient past and going forward into the ancient future.
That's interesting, Chris. I gotta say, I don't disagree with that either, because I'm also a reincarnationist myself. I fully believe in the concept of reincarnation, and perhaps you could reincarnate across time from, say, maybe 2022 to reincarnate into ancient Egypt, or whatever the case may be. But that's a whole nother show for sure. We could get into that topic and then would definitely get lost. Let's see, if there's anything else I want to cover. There was something else I was going to say, but I don't remember now what it was, as my brain's doing a mile a minute and seems to be going backwards at some points.
What I would love to do here is just talk about what people say when they say, just like we did for the previous one, with the pixelation, glitches. What is it about this theory that is so compelling for people? Like, what is it it's a whodunit, like who's doing the Mandela effect? Then what are the clues here that would suggest it's got to be the parallel universes?
Yeah, I'm gonna mention too, because like when I make videos, I love using soft disclosure because I think there's a lot to it, and there's so much about timelines, isn't there? Like, I haven't seen the Spider-Man movie yet. Spider-Man: No Way Home is all about picking the right timelines and that type of a thing. The Avengers movie, I think but basically timelines are at everyone's face lately. So I believe like this is all like disclosure about what reality actually is. So there's just so much interesting evidence that, again, when you look at it, like, oh, that's just make pretend, or that's fantasy, or that's science fiction. But the science fiction, sometimes science fiction, what was science fiction in the 60s and the 70s is now science fact now. So who knows what we're going to believe or what humanity is going to believe when we kind of flip the consciousness grid, the 100th monkey effect, where we begin to be like, wow, maybe this is possible. Maybe what we've been taught isn't actually true. Maybe there's much, much more to this reality than what we've been allowed to know. And then it also asks the question, why does modern science now look down on us because we observe the Mandela effect? Why are we called, people that are confabulating or misremembering? Why do many scientists not, like we were talking about before, why do many scientists not want to even talk about the Mandela effect? Because they're afraid that they'll be looked down on, that type of a thing.
Yeah, part of the evidence comes from intuition, just like when we feel like, oh, something told me don't get on that flight, don't take that flight, and then something went wrong. Thank goodness I didn't go. It's almost like they're sensing that there is that other reality. So I think this is built into people's psyche, and this is perhaps why people are so fond of the parallel universes, of the multiverse, because it feels right with the intuition.
Well, if we want to look at this from a whodunit standpoint, I would argue that the who would be the scientists, say CERN, for instance, that upon turning on some scientific experiment, unbeknownst to the researcher, has triggered an action that has moved reality itself to a new timeline, or moved humans to a new timeline, or you could even be phases of the sun, the energy hitting us from the sun. That there's a concept that Chris and I have looked into more than once. The idea that the particles or whatever's coming out of the sun could be causing us to be shifted to these new realities. And to answer the second part of your question, Cynthia, when there is a shift, as we all know, there is a number of things that suddenly change in reality. There's suddenly we find these Mandela effects, and they're not Easter eggs that we just missed last time we were looking. These are things that literally we looked at a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, whatever the case may be. Know the answer originally, and then now we look back and it's completely different than what we originally had seen. But history records it was never changed. So I think a lot of those are what leads to the suggestion that it really is a multiverse jump.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go there with you. I don't feel the need to bring in the scientists who are causing it, because to me that's not down far enough for me. It's like, nah. If it's turtles all the way down, that's not the root level of consciousness. That's not the base. So, but yeah, I think that's a really good point. Love your cat too, that keeps showing up.
Yeah, this is Tuna. This is the one that adopted me when I moved in here. I was never a cat person. Let's be very clear. I'm a dog guy. Always have been. When I moved into my daughter's house, this cat straight up adopted me. And what I mean by that, I like when my daughter tries to explain this to people. When I go out, the cat goes out. When I come in, the cat goes in. When I go to bed, she lays down right next to me. If I come in the house, she's got to be right around my feet if I come home from work. Matter of fact, when I do come home from work, she'll come up and she'll twist around my feet and she'll jump up where she is right now, right next to me on the computer desk, and just lay here and wait. She adopted me. I'm daddy, whether I like it or not.
I think literally she likes your frequency is literally what it is. You're resonating a frequency that's attracting her or him.
It is her.
Is Tuna a boy or a girl?
It's a her. It's a girl.
A her. Okay.
Yeah, it is the strangest thing. I've never had a cat, never been a cat person, like I said, but she thinks that I have been. I guess.
A parallel reality, as we're talking about.
Right. Or perhaps she's a reincarnated old friend of mine. Who knows, right?
We've had those experiences too, where you just meet someone and they think they know you, or that you said something and you don't remember it. But I tend to just go with it, like, okay, I'm in improv, and obviously we're having a Mandela effect, but let's run with it.
I have definitely had those moments. Or what really gets me, my best friend, may she rest in peace, used to do this to me. She would say, hey, you remember when we did this, and this? So 2 of the 3 things I would remember. But she would always throw something else in there like, no, I really don't recall that part, but apparently I was there. I was there the rest of the time, so I had to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that a lot myself too lately. Like people will tell me one thing,
right?
And then I'll see them a couple of months later and they'll tell me something completely different. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is like, that's happening so often.
Right.
I had a boss that would do that. Now, I don't know if maybe she just had too much going on or what, but it was funny that every time there was a shift, I would find this action. My GM would tell us, hey, we're going to change the policy to do this, this, and this. So we'd start doing these things. And then a couple weeks later, right around the time of a shift, she would come back. Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? Why did you start making it this way? You said so.
Oh, gosh.
Her daughter caught her one time. And no, I was here too. I heard you say it. No, I don't know if she was losing her mind or losing reality. I'm not 100% sure, And speaking of losing reality, if we can go ahead and jump to our next slide here. A lot of people think it could be time travel or different timelines, as you brought up a minute ago. Chris, you want to take this one, bud?
Yeah, I think we should start off this one. We've got 2 clips to play. The first one is where Back to the Future, where Doc explains time travel and timelines. And then the second one is how the guys at the Big Bang Theory try to interpret what Doc is saying. But let's play the Back to the Future clip first to kind of set this up.
I went to the public library to try to make sense out of all the madness. The place was boarded up, shut down, so I broke in and borrowed some newspapers.
I don't get it, Doc. I mean, how can all this be happening? It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse. Oh, Annie. I'm sorry, boy. The lab is an awful, 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 awful mess. Attaboy. Obviously, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating this new temporal event sequence resulting in this alternate reality.
English, Doc.
Here. Let me illustrate. Imagine that this line represents time. There's the present, 1985, the future, and the past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else. Recognize this? It's the bag the sports book came in. I know, because the receipt was still inside. I found them in the time machine.
Okay, now let's, there you go, Doc explains it. Now let's see how the Big Bang comedy talks about it.
Hold on, pause. Something doesn't make sense. Look, in 2015, Biff steals the sports almanac and takes the time machine back to 1955 to give it to his younger self. But as soon as he does that, he changes the future. So the 2015 he returns to would be a different 2015, not the 2015 that Marty and Doc were in.
This is Hot Tub Time Machine all over again. If future Biff goes back to 2015 right after he gives young Biff the almanac, he could get back to the 2015 with Marty and Doc in it, because it wasn't until his 21st birthday that 1955 Biff placed his first bet.
Whoa. Is placed right?
What do you mean?
Is placed the right tense for something that would have happened in the future of a past that was affected by something from the future?
Had will have placed?
That's my boy.
Okay, so it wasn't until his 21st birthday that Biff will have placed his first bet and made his millions. That's when he altered the timeline.
Yeah, but he will haven't placed it.
What?
like Hot Tub Time Machine, this couldn't be more simple. When Biff gets the almanac in 1955, the alternate future he creates isn't the one in which Marty and Doc Brown ever used the time machine to travel to 2015. Therefore, in the new timeline, Marty and Doc never brought the time machine.
Wait. Is brought right?
Marty and Doc never have had brought?
I don't know. You did it to me.
I'm going with it. Marty and Doc never had brought the time machine to 2015. That means 2015 Biff could also not have had brought the almanac to 1955 Biff. Therefore, the timeline in which 1955 Biff gets the almanac is also the timeline in which 1955 Biff never gets the almanac, and not just never gets, never has.
Go ahead and cut
hasn't,
the.
Never hasn't.
Go ahead and cut the. Yeah.
It gets confusing, right?
Yeah.
That I think that's the whole point, like, of us showing this. Like, you talk about timelines and time travel, it starts to get like confusing. Like, how does this actually work? So, great topic for us to talk about what the possibilities are here.
And what a great example. I think this movie, Back to the Future, and the sequels, they really illustrate the confusion that can happen and the kind of questions that arise with. And this would be in physics, this idea of the closed time-like curves, so they can travel backward via consciousness. In this case, they've got a time machine, the DeLorean, which is really cool. I think everybody would love a time machine like that. But it seems like it creates a tangle, sort of like what, Chris, you call that hairball of timelines.
Exactly. Hairball of timelines, exactly.
Right.
Too many different factions are trying to change history, going back and forth, and all these crazy things happen.
And some people might say this would explain the Mandela effect right there, the hairball of timelines of too many cooks in the kitchen, messing with, tinkering with things.
Yeah, and if this is like a type, like if we are consciousness and let's say some type of technology or however we look at things, it would make sense that time travel should be possible. Like, even though it's not commonly adhered to that time travel is a real thing, it definitely is. I see it as a total reality for myself. And then you take that concept with the concept of what I call timeline insertions, how events can be inserted into time. And I bring up one of these in one of the new videos I'm making about flipping the chessboard about that happened in the 1980s. There was this female group of terrorists, United States terrorists, that were made up of women that were bombing all these places around the country, including they bombed the Senate as well.
Wow.
But you can't find there's no news reports. I can't find anything. This happened when Ronald Reagan was president. I looked through the Ronald Reagan archives and everything. He never talks about when the Senate was bombed. I think it was 1983. I think he was president from 80 to 88 was the term that he spent. The only evidence you could find is court transcripts. And in 2020, somebody wrote a book, and it's about the forgotten history of M19, which were the female terrorist group. So I go into more detail as well. Like, why, what happened? Like, there was almost like a timeline insertion that didn't hit all the timelines, but it hit at least the important one. And then that led off into other things as well. And you take events like what happened in Tiananmen Square. A lot of people remember Tank Man in that story. And like, I remember, I know for a fact, like in the way my memory works, I remember when Tank Man was killed by the tank, it literally changed history in China. They went from communism, they had all of these, like, people were protesting, revolts, and they became a democracy. And they adopted their own constitution, which is based off the U.S. Constitution. It was really incredible. And then all of a sudden, like in the 2000s, probably 2010, it's back to communist China. And I was like, wondering, like, why is it back to communist China? Is it possible that the Chinese government has some kind of time travel technology where they change that event so that Tank Man never dies and there's no big deal? So there are all these different things to consider when it comes to time and timeline insertions. Is it possible? Is it only possible with technology? Can people themselves travel through time? Like there's all these things that are brought up. So I think that this concept, as far as how reality can have changes and how we can observe Mandela effects, I believe that the whole concept of time travel should be included in all the things that we talk about, because it's just a natural extension of everything else.
It is natural. It's naturally part of quantum physics in the form of delayed choice, which we can see in the double slit experiment, where it's possible in the future to designate what kind of measurement was happening in a double slit experimental apparatus, and thereby change the outcome. So the future measurement, the future observation can absolutely change what happened in the past. And so we've definitely seen that, and it's a repeatable experiment. And this time travel concept, whether it was humans with or without a time machine, this was Art Bell's favorite go-to topic and explanation. And he also was one of the first people to talk about the Mandela effect, actually talking about Nelson Mandela on his radio show. So it's good to give Art Bell a shout out.
Prior to 2010, when the phrase was actually coined.
Right.
So that's interesting. He had it in the bag, but long before Fiona had brought it up.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she was listening to Art Bell that night and we didn't know it.
She was, and that may be where they got it from without knowing that they'd heard, but I don't know. Sometimes ideas can also spread simultaneously. So like Charles Darwin got the idea about the double helix DNA and evolution, and the Crick Watson, they got the double helix, and that was also like an idea that hit the globe at the same time. Several people picked it up. Same thing with Darwin and evolution.
The other day I was talking in the backstage, and by the way, speaking of stage, I do apologize, folks, in YouTube, as we know, is absolute trash, and decided that it didn't want to let us continue playing for a little while. We are back now on screen and good to go, but we do apologize that this platform is so pathetic that it barely even works most of the time. But anyway, that aside, what were you saying, Cynthia? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Oh, just talking about sometimes ideas seem like they're memes.
Yes.
They have a life of their own, and they are received by several individuals at the same time. So there's not one singular inventor, but it's like the idea's time has come, it's arrived, and we receive it.
So we know what rhinos, politically speaking, and this is not a political affiliated show, but just for the sake of topic, we know rhinos is Republicans in name only. So I was messing around backstage and I was talking about dinos being Democrats in name only, but I don't believe I went public with that word. As a matter of fact, I think I forgot to use it later on that evening that I meant to. The next day, the very next day, I'm watching a show that I watch every day, and the particular creator starts talking about dinos, Democrats in name only, and I went, wait, whoa, hold up. So it's again that concept. I had never even heard it before, and then putting it out there, all of a sudden, somebody I don't even know picks it up in the consciousness and uses the same concept. You know what I mean?
Yes. Like the monkeys washing their sweet potatoes, like that 100th monkey effect. And how could, these snow monkeys on Japanese islands that they didn't have any communication, all of a sudden they begin to understand that. And yeah, I definitely, like, things go into the quantum field, so to speak, or into the human consciousness grid, and people start picking up on things. I'll start watching video, like people will create a video about whatever, and I'll be like, oh my God, I was just thinking about that. So that, yeah, exactly. I definitely see that type of phenomena happening a lot too.
Any chat? I'm not watching the chat, but anybody see what's going on in a live chat about time travel? Any comments that we want to bring in? This is a meaty show today. We are definitely diving into these theories. We love your comments.
Saudi B says it's because your thoughts are the programming language of this reality.
It's a good take on it. Like that. Regardless whether people buy into the computer simulated reality or just awareness that consciousness is at the root of it. Either way, I love it.
People were pretty mad that YouTube decided to make a Nazi move there, but besides that, there's really not a whole lot of conversation here. in reference to this particular topic.
So
it's a good segue, I think, into our next slide.
Let's go. Let's go to take a look at the next theory.
The many worlds theory.
We're still, many worlds.
So this goes back to Hugh Everett once again, as Cynthia mentioned earlier. We've touched on this a little bit ago. I guess we're going to go just a little deeper here. Apparently, there's a clip from The Man in the High Castle. I'm not sure if we want to play that now. Well, you know what happened last time we played a clip. Yeah.
Oh, is that what we got brought down?
Do we want to risk this or not? So this
Let's go ahead and skip this clip.
Play with sound off and talk over it. Let's do that.
There we go.
So roll the video with no sound, please. We'll fill it in. So this guy is saying something like, "What are we looking at?" I can't remember exactly, but they have a special room set up to describe what this scientist is about to demonstrate.
Yeah, basically it's a map of the multiverse and how the Nazis in this particular timeline have figured out that there's other realities, many worlds out there. And they show like their world, and then they show this world that they're actually
that are taking control. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a bizarre concept to them. Like, what? There's a world where the Nazis did not win World War II?
Right. Something so strange and different opposed to the reality that one already knows.
Right.
And what the Nazis are actually doing is they're actually traveling to other worlds, stealing their secrets for technology, bringing it back to their world, and then learning from it. So they're basically harvesting the ideas that have been discovered in other worlds, and they're using it for their own purposes, so that they can take over and conquer these other worlds or timelines.
And for people that think this sounds far out, keep in mind that some of the engineers that are creating quantum computers right now are basically saying this is what their quantum computers will be doing, is, taking ideas from other possible realities, other possible worlds, and bringing back the answers. And this interpretation of many worlds, interpretation by Hugh Everett III, it can be seen to be one and the same as the multiverse. For the people following physics, we're looking at two ideas. One is from quantum physics, many worlds interpretation, and then the cosmological idea is the multiverse. And a lot of physicists are now saying they're one and the same. So, of course, they're bringing together a theory of everything, like Tom Campbell is working on, and he was a guest on our Open Tables show recently. But these other physicists are bringing together what happens when you say the many worlds is the same as the multiverse. Many worlds of quantum physics is one and the same as literally a whole other pocket universe that you can walk into, jump into. And I think, Chris, you've done some clips showing what it feels like to jump into another pocket universe, and you're physically there, from, like you said, soft revelation.
Yeah, I just want to ask, are we back up again? Because I see comments that
we were momentarily, but when we played that last clip, it decided to do what it does and take us offline again because YouTube is trash. But that aside, the many worlds theory, Michio Kaku also talks about, and now they've decided to bring us back up because, again, YouTube is absolute trash. I want to make sure that's on YouTube. YouTube is garbage. Let's be clear here. YouTube is fascist garbage that doesn't want real information out there. Otherwise, but now that we've got that out on YouTube, you horrible excuse for a platform. Sorry, a little aggravated with YouTube today. Many worlds, the Michio Kaku, one of my favorite theoretical physicists, speaks of this concept like a radio, that the dinosaurs and all the different times of reality exist within the same room as you do right now, but it depends on what frequency you are tuned into as to what you experience. Like, I'm experiencing you guys right now, but I could be experiencing a T-Rex if I could get to the right frequency to vibrate on. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, yeah. And it explains how some people see literal dinosaurs, pterodactyls flying, which is outrageous and seems impossible. But there have been some, what do you call it when something's outside of time, asynchronous kind of an experience like that. And it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and one of the videos I created was about step pyramids and what exactly were step pyramids versus regular pyramids. And what I was able to learn from the Akashic records is that they were actually, you can step down and use them as portals to bring objects from higher frequencies down into our 3D frequency. And depending on how many steps a step pyramid had was usually an indicator of how many levels of reality you can bring things down. So I guess like it's possible that, let's say, perhaps gold or precious jewels are more plentiful in other realities. And wouldn't it be something if you could somehow bring that into your reality? So in some of the like lost cities of gold that they talk about in like South America or Central America, did they really exist, or were they actually using step pyramid technology? And a lot of these step pyramids have like mercury pools at the bottom, which I think is really interesting as well. So there's a lot of things that we would consider technology that the ancients had that we're just discovering what the possibilities could be. Right now it's like crazy, wild thoughts. But is it possible that there are other frequencies that are right here among us right now that we're just not observant of? And I think that there are. And I think we're going to start seeing them.
And we'll be getting into this in our show next month, a little bit in some degree.
That could be what we arguably call a shift.
Absolutely. For sure.
A full change in frequency group-wise, if you will. That's just one of many theories today, and that's what this show has been about.
You look at the Schumann resonance, how that keeps like spiking to all-time highs and crazy frequency things going to the Schumann. Like they're all just indicators, right?
Well, I must apologize. I broke the Schumann about a year or two ago, and I haven't been able to fix it yet. Yes, that was me.
Okay. What did
no
you do,
joke. The day that it went down for like a week and then it came back and had this weird scramble that it has in it. The day that happened, I did my episode on the Schumann resonance. So yeah, I may have broke it. I just ain't figured out how to fix it back to the way it was beforehand. It only goes one way apparently. But I do believe that's all the time we have for today's episode, folks. It has been an absolutely incredible conversation with you guys, like always. I really enjoy that.
Let's thank our sponsors.
I was about to say really quick, a special thank you, of course, to our new Patreon sponsors. Guys, do check us out on Patreon. We may end up putting part of this show over there because, you know, it's only gotten cut a number of times and lost a good majority of information. So Patreon, of course, as you guys know, is a place you can find information that you can't find on these other excuses for platforms. Our Patreon supporters, J.D. Peterson, James S.E. Badillo, Aurora Grace H., Yulia, Vicky Hatters, Stephanie Clay, Stefania Marina's daughter. I really messed that up and I do apologize. Mel, Colleen Leary, Gil R., Julia Padreka, Jody, Susan Elizabeth, Jason Ram, Ariana Elise, Christina, and Josiah Boricius. Marinosa Doter. Yeah, I apologize, whoever that person is. I really messed your name up, and I know it. But thank you all, the guys. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts here at IMEC, we do sincerely appreciate every way that you guys help support us. Also, remember, anything you donate to us is tax a write-off. What's the word I'm looking for, Chris?
Deductible.
Thank you. Tax deductible. Again, the brain isn't awake enough yet. We are a 501c3 organization, so if you donate to us, make sure you keep your receipt, as you can write that off on your taxes. It is fully tax deductible. Before we get out of here, would you guys like to say anything to the audience real quick?
Join us next month. We'll be here March 30th, Wednesday, same time as today and same channel. We're talking about quantum immortality and how there's this whole clearing of the veils that's going on.
Yeah, and I'll add that I think that if you watch this in the replay, the parts that were missing live will be there. I think they just cut it on the live feed, but I do believe they'll be there in replay.
Yeah,
Let's
and
hope so.
And I'll just add, look for my new 8-part Symphony of Reality series coming up soon. Going to start to release it in March. When I first filmed it, I actually spoke for like 2.5 hours, so Heather knows. So there's a lot of editing we need to do to bring in like clips and that type of a thing. So it's all going to be really cool stuff. Like there could be a subject that that I start talking about, like higher self learning or whatever, trading, and that leads into other things that you're not even going to be expecting. So like every single episode is going to be like really, really like mind. It's going to make your brain itch. Is the best way to say it.
Let's find out how good that can get.
Absolutely.
I love a good brain itch. I don't know about you guys.
And if you are interested in the People's Convoy, we are going to be covering that over at Unbiased and on the Fence.
Honk, honk, by the way.
Honk, honk.
Definitely.
Right.
Honk,
honk for freedom.
Speaking of freedom, we have the Censored Freedom episodes every morning on BitChute and Rumble, as well as the ripinrabbithole.com. We do it live 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific. And Cynthia, anything you'd like to plug real quick before we head out of here?
Just if they don't know about my newsletter, I do have a newsletter. I don't seem like I mention it much. It's published monthly. That's realityshifters.com. So you can find me and my work and whatever's going on right there. And all the access through various other social media and so forth.
Definitely. Real quick. By the way, I really enjoy when I receive those emails. Like that is one of my favorite newsletters ever. I'm signed up for a number of them, and like yours is the one I read the moment I get it, and just always such wonderful, upbeat, high energy information. It's very inspiring. Speaking of inspiring, thank you to our incredibly inspired producer behind the scenes, Heather. She does an incredible job, top-notch work, does not get enough credit for the amazing work that she does for us. So hats off to Heather. Wonderful job. We really appreciate everything you do. And on behalf of Heather, Christopher, Anatra, Shane, Unbiased and on the Fence, and Cynthia Sue Larson, I'm Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you're watching IMEC Open Tables, Season 2, Episode 2. Remember, until next time, together we go, together we grow. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.